Hey guys, what's up? It is Ripe again, back with more revenge stories. If you haven't already, please don't forget to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for exclusive Reddit content. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Don't Park in My Driveway, 2 Incidents. At my shore house, parking is always tight on weekends. I am fortunate enough to have a driveway. It is my driveway and it is not a common driveway. Next door, a bunch of college students are renting it and they think they can park in my driveway. The first 2 or 3 weekends we are forgiving, telling them to move their car and remind them that they cannot park here. One weekend I came down separately. My parents were already down there and took a street spot. It gets annoying to shuffle 3 or 4 cars around. I saw the neighbor's car in our driveway again, but I had a plan this time. I parked behind them and said nothing. I usually don't need to drive anywhere as I bike most places. About an hour and a half later we hear a knock on the door. I answer it and guess who it is? The neighbor. He wants to move his car and he is sorry that he parked there. I get in my car and flip the kill switch. I park in a bad neighborhood, so I have a kill switch that will cut power to my fuel pump. Basically my car will crank but won't start since no fuel is getting to the engine. After 30 seconds of trying to start a car that won't start, I tell him my car's computer needs to reset, BS story, and that takes half an hour. My family and I went out to dinner. We come back and he was seething. He gave us a death stare for trapping his car on our property. He runs up to us and demands that I move my car. I told him that I will move it after I go to the bathroom. This was not a joke, I really had to take a crap. It completely slipped my mind. About half an hour later, we get a knock on the door. It is the police. Hilarity will ensue. The cop said that I need to move my car out of my neighbor's driveway. I asked him to repeat himself. My neighbor told the cop that I parked in his driveway. I asked the officer to look at where the property line is as I assured him that it was my driveway. I went on telling the officer that this is not the first time he has parked here and we have asked him to stop. I moved my car so he could pull out. It was totally worth it seeing the cop write up a trespassing ticket for my neighbor. Have fun with that, fine buddy. Incident number 2. Fast forward 3 weeks, we see a different car parked in our driveway. We recognize it as one of theirs. The windows were rolled down a bit and the car was manual. In the past I have called tow companies to tow cars off our property, but they never come. However, the cops will tow a car if it is obstructing traffic. This leads to my idea. I reach inside the open window and unlock the door. I then hop in the car and disengage the e-brake. My driveway is sloped gently down the street. I ride the brake and I was going to turn the wheel, but the wheel locked. I figured, this is close enough. I re-engage the e-brake, lock the doors and get out. I call the police and tell them that an illegally parked car is blocking the street. They come and in quick order tow them away. I was a bit short-sighted on this call. I forgot that even though that the car is gone, the people that own that car are not gone. They knock on our door and my dad answers it. He said some BS like, "Oh, we just got down here about 15 minutes ago. Car was towed like 2 hours ago, and I was glad to see you didn't park here. I would call the police and report your car stolen." We never heard from him again that day. They have not parked in our driveway for a good month now. And guys, I don't know why, but to me it seems like that one of the most popular disputes between neighbors is always about parking spots. Did you ever have any neighbor parking spot problems? Please let us know in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit if you have a nice parking spot or neighbor story to share. And the next one is titled, A Lawyer's Petty Revenge on Annoying Neighbors. My uncle recently retired after practicing law for over 50 years. He is an awesome guy, went through really tough times as a kid and overcame a lot of obstacles to get where he is. This petty revenge tale concerns something he did in the 60s. My uncle was raised outside of Toronto in King City. By the mid-60s he and all his siblings had moved out and his mom, my grandma, was living alone. New neighbors moved in next door, English types with the accent and all that. One day they told my grandma that they had a survey done and learned that the property line was a lot more favorable to them than has previously been thought. There had never been a fence up before, but they had a big long wooden fence put up encroaching about 10 feet onto my grandma's property. My grandma called my uncle when the construction started. He went to talk to the neighbors and explained about adverse possession and all that, but they were not buying it. My uncle goes back and tells my grandma. She asks what should they do. Let them finish the fence, then we will have another talk, my uncle says. So the fence gets finished and then my uncle goes over for another talk. Knocks, neighbor comes to the door. About that fence, says my uncle gesturing. The neighbors look and see that the fence is on fire. It is burning from end to end because my uncle bought lots of gasoline to douse it with. The fence was being quickly consumed, no point in even thinking of saving it. Build it again? I will burn it again, said my uncle. He walked back to my grandma's house for dinner. The neighbors did not rebuild that fence. And guys, in case you enjoy the revenge stories that I post very frequently now, please don't forget to like the video if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance, it really means a lot to me. And the next one is titled Pro Revenge on a Highly Annoying and Rude Neighbor. Okay, so I moved into my house around January of 2013. I really liked the house despite it not being in the best of neighborhoods. I have 2 kids and I'm a single/full-time dad that gets by without notable family support. I'm not anything close to wealthy, rich or even upper middle class. I am lower middle at best. Anywho, enough about me. The highly annoying and rude neighbor. In the fall of 2013, on a particularly nice day, I decided to take my kids to the park. There is a nice park on our street and it is about a block from our home. We packed a lunch and made a day of it. It was nice. As the sun set, we gathered our things and started to head home. As we reached our block, I noticed that there was a man sitting in the lawn chair in the yard of the house, which is directly across the street from ours. He was listening to some hip-hop music and having a beer. I thought nothing of it, just a guy enjoying the beautiful day like us. By the way guys, I forgot to say that this story could potentially be offensive to some of you, but anyway, as we stood on the section of the sidewalk that borders his yard waiting for the traffic to pass, it is a pretty busy street, he called out to me, "Hey yo, what's up man? My name's Brooklyn." "Hey yeah, not much buddy, just headed home, had a nice day at the park, my name is XXXX, I said. He stood up from his lawn chair and approached me with his hand out. He gestured for a handshake and I stuck my hand out and gave him one and said, "It is nice to meet you." I noticed he was smoking weed. He told me, "Yo, you live across the street and shit. I just moved here from Brooklyn. I bought this house for 50 G's at an auction." I gave a generic, "Wow, what a steal" answer. "Yo, you should come over and kick it. We can drink some beers and smoke a blunt, mate." Being the beta personality that I am, I told him that I would stop by sometime, knowing full well that I had no intention of ever doing so. He seemed like a nice enough guy and I'm not one to judge, even though as a single dad in his 30s, blunts and brews in the front yard is not exactly on the menu. This was the start of the most damn annoying 4 or 5 months of my life. Bang bang bang, loud knocking and offensive language. A few days passed and I hadn't had any interaction with Brooklyn. I was hoping that his Cypress Hill tier blunt smoking had caused him to forget about me. Boy was I wrong, because one morning around 7 or 8 AM, someone started banging on my door like Dog the Bounty Hunter. I was kind of startled by it, so I looked out the front window before I opened the door. It was Brooklyn, obviously, and he was standing there smoking a blunt on my porch. The sound of Rick Ross being played at an obnoxious level was coming over from across the street. Now, anyone with small kids knows that nothing pisses you off more than somebody acting like a jerk around your kids. I opened the door and said something along the lines of, "Look man, don't smoke pot on my porch." He shifted from what's up mode to apology mode and said that he hadn't meant to be disrespectful and that I was right to look after my kids. He guaranteed me that it wouldn't happen again. He said the reason he was stopping by was to see if I wanted to buy a nice snowblower. He said that he picked it up in the middle of summer and this mother trucker is really nice. I told him that I was kind of strapped for cash, but if I came into any I would be glad to take a look at it if he still had it. No big deal. Later that day he came back while I was clearing my patio area of leaves and debris. I was around back with the rake and I heard someone milling around on my front porch. I walked around to see who it was and what they needed. It was him again. He stood there and, having just met me, explains to me that he sells mad weed, Roxy's, Carboxin, which is Subsoxone, and all of that other good stuff. He had taken it upon himself to open my screen door up and used a little sliding thingamagic to prop it open. Don't ask me why, but he made it a point to do this anytime he obnoxiously knocked on my door, which was a damn daily occurrence. I walk my kids to the bus stop for school on school days and he would always be out there listening to Maybach music and smoking blunts at like 7:30 AM. I put this guy on my idiot avoid list, however, as we all know, avoiding annoying idiots is easier said than done. I thought if I was just dismissive of him that eventually he would take the hint. Wrong. Subtlety is lost on small-time weed peddlers from Brooklyn with double-digit IQs. This guy must have thought that if he constantly told me how much love he had for me, I got mad love for any mate raising kids without anyone. That I would be so enamored with him that I would love to sit and hear him cuss and talk about bodying mates while smoking MJ. He even offered to have his girlfriend babysit my sons. I'm not trying to be stuffy or pretentious or snobby or whatever, but F no. He and his girlfriend beat the crap out of each other, as noted in many stories that I had to endure, so this guy is a drug dealer, an obnoxious jerk, a foul-mouthed woman beater, and one hell of an annoying neighbor. I am trying to paint a picture of this annoying guy. I realized that most of what I said wouldn't be annoying if I weren't trying to maintain a G-rated lifestyle because I have 2 small kids. I get that. I didn't want to judge the guy because he is an obnoxious pothead / wannabe gangster. Side note, I also let the guy do a load of laundry in my basement when my kids were at school, not just once but at least a dozen times. He screwed me over. A few months of not snapping on this guy passed and we had developed a report in which he would bang on my door, I would answer it and nod my head until he finished blabbering on about a day in the life of a hyperactive adult that stays high as a kite and sells stolen goods and weed. Yeah, he asked me at least a dozen times to put stuff on Craigslist. I guess this is hard. And make sure you use your phone number so you can talk to them. He even admitted the stuff was stolen sometimes. I am slow to anger. It takes a lot to push me over the edge, but this prick managed to do it. He draws a social security pension for what I do not know or really care, probably mental illness, and like a lot of folks on social security disability, he sometimes has a hard time making his money stretch out for an entire month. It was around the 25th of January that he approached me and asked me to loan him $15 to get cigarettes and other stuff. I obliged him and he promised to pay me back the next day. Well, no surprise here, the next day rolled around and he told me that he was waiting for his homeboy to bring him some money so he could re-up, buy more weed to sell, and that he would definitely pay me the next day. I said that would be fine, I was not particularly worried about $15. But the next day came and went and I hadn't heard a word from him, so I texted him on the 28th and asked him if he had it. I even put that it wasn't a big deal and he could just pay me when he was able to. I've been around the block a time or two and I knew what was going on, or so I thought. I figured that he was going to just put me on the back burner until he got his $1,000 from Social Security on the 1st of February. He just kept telling me that he was waiting on his homeboy to pay him back so he could re-up. Whatever, no biggie. So the 1st of February rolls around and I still haven't heard from him, so I shot him another text. He replied, "Yeah mate, I got you, I pay you tonight around 8 o'clock. Came and went, as did 9, 10, 11 and midnight. I just went to bed. The next morning I called him up, he answered with an insistent, "What?" I said, "Hey man, are you gonna pay me back?" He got half-assed smart with me. "I ain't got it, what do you want me to do?" I said, "Hey man, I know you just got Social Security. You cannot pay me back $15 that I was good enough to loan you?" He snapped, "You wanna come at me like that I ain't paying you anything back? You wanna get it on? We get it on, mate." I had enough. I was literally shaking. I probably sounded like Tom Cruise on Tropic Thunder when I said, "Listen to me, you stupid mother trucker." You keep that 15 bucks and keep your stupid ass on your side of the street, because if I catch you on my property, I'm going to bounce you off the top of your head. I will F you up in front of this entire neighborhood. He hung up. I haven't seen or heard from him since. The petty revenge. A few weeks later I noticed that he had parked his car on the street in front of my house, which is a no parking railroad crossing zone. I did what any mature adult would do. I dialed the police non-emergency number and complained about people parked in a railroad crossing zone. I did not eat dinner at the table with my kids that night. I sat in my living room chair and watched out the window. About a half hour later the cops show up and flip on their lights. Dumbass Brooklyn comes running out of his house hollering something about "my truck." He stood there and talked to them for like 20 minutes and they ultimately handed him what looked like a ticket. They didn't tow it and they allowed him to relocate his vehicle. To be honest, I have no idea if it was a ticket or a warning. You know what I hope it was. More petty revenge. A few more weeks pass and still haven't heard a word from Dumbass. This guy is literally the biggest hilljack from New York City of all time. He parks his cars in his yard, he has a dilapidated RV in the back, about a dozen big ass pit bulls. I hate this dude with a passion. Anyway, I called the City Division of Property Code Enforcement and complained about his junkyard of a property. I just noticed an old white man with a clipboard get out of a city car and walk around to the back of his house. I hope he gets condemned and has to live in a box. Update: the little old white guy walked around the property and made some notes. He was not able to really gain access to the backyard because of all the hostile dogs back there. He bumbled around for about 10 minutes and left. Later on that day, when I went to get my kids from the bus, I noticed that there were some papers taped to the front door. I hope it is a "clean up or get the F out" notice. The next one is an absolute beauty and is from r/pro revenge and is titled 70% of my pay? Okay, I will get a new job. Not me, but a guy I worked with 10 years ago. I guess it counts as a revenge. I worked with a guy who really stuck it to his ex-wife. When I met him, he was working in a sporting goods store making $8 an hour. He was not really like the other retail monkeys. He was older, well-groomed, well-spoken, clearly educated, etc. One night after work, he gets into his car and I could not help but notice that it was a very nice newish Jaguar. I asked him how he could afford it and he explained it to me. He had been an SVP at a well-known Fortune 50 company, which I will not mention the name of, pulling in $300K with bonuses and stock options. He was married, but the marriage fell apart and in the divorce she demanded that she gets the house and 40% of his wages. He and his lawyer somehow managed to get her to agree to let him keep the house in exchange for 75% of his pay, no dollar figure or employer specified. As soon as she took the settlement, he quit his job and looked for a minimum wage job. He said to me that she gets 75% of nearly nothing now. He had other money stashed away, so he did not even need the job, and he had the house and its equity as well. Also, no kids, so there was no child support, just alimony. She was furious of course and tried to sue him, but failed at least once, and when she claimed that the settlement was not keeping her in the lifestyle she was accustomed to, he simply told the judge that the divorce was traumatic to him and he could no longer do his old job as a result. At least at that time, she did not manage to get out of the deal. Not sure how it all ended, but I thought it was effing brilliant, if not crazy level spiteful. He was a good employee too, good with customers, showed up on time, no bullcrap absenteeism or anything like that. He claimed he loved each payday because it reminded him how little she was getting. And Ripe stars, unfortunately we have already reached the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed the content. However, if you cannot wait for more Ripe content, then I suggest you head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where you can find more exclusive Reddit content read by me. Patreon subscriptions start at just $1 per month, and for $1 your name will show up at the end of each of my new videos. However, if you are willing to spend $3 per month, you will get access to more than 50 exclusive Reddit videos, mostly just no mother-in-law stories. However, please understand, I don't want to pressure anyone into spending money, because I am already incredibly grateful that you watch my videos every single day. Thank you so much for your daily support, it really means the world to me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow for the next video.